We have already spoken of two types of solving quadratic equations. One of them was the zero factor property, and the other one was the square root property. Zero factor property, remember we had each factor equal to 0, and the square root property, we took the square root of both sides. A third option for solving quadratic equations is completely optional to you. You do not have to use this method, so if you do not want to, stop watching the video now, which is fine. I just want to make sure that you have that option, okay? This option is called completing the square. So we still have it set up in ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 form. What I'm going to do is I need to get the a to be a 1. So I need a leading coefficient of 1. So I'm going to divide everything, all terms, by the a to get this x squared by itself. Then I'm going to isolate the variable terms, meaning these two terms, on one side of the equation, putting my c to the other side. Then what happens is I want to do what's called complete the square. What it is I add the square of 1/2 the linear term coefficient to both sides. That means half of this one. I'm going to take half of it and square it and add it to both sides. Remember, if I do something to one side of the equation, I have to do it to the other so it stays balanced. And then I can factor. I'll apply the square root property and solve for x. So let's see what this looks like. So I have x squared minus 18x plus 5 equal to 0. So my first question is my leading coefficient 1? It is, so I don't have to do anything there. What I do need to do is I need to get these terms by themselves, the variable terms isolated. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. And so I get the x squared minus 18x, and I'm going to leave some space, is equal to a negative 5. Because step 3 in our steps for completing the square state that we're going to add 1/2 of my b, negative 18, and I'm going to square it. So I'm going to add 1/2 of my negative b, or of my b, which is negative 18, and I'm going to square it. So if you think about this, half of a negative 18 is a negative 9 squared. So I've got a negative 9 squared. On the left-hand side of the equation, I'm actually going to leave it as it looks. I'm not going to simplify this at all. Now over here I will, because it's just numbers. So I'm going to have negative 5 plus an 81. So negative 5 plus 81 gives me a 76. Over on the left-hand side, they want me to factor this thing. Whenever I factor it, it actually becomes x and then whatever this is. Notice it's a negative 9 squared. Because this is squared, and I just take my leading term and my number that I just added squared, and then that value squared. What I can do is I can always check myself by saying x minus 9 times x minus 9, foiling it out and seeing if I get what I started with up here. Now it's in the format that I can use the square root property. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take plus or minus the square root of 76 and the square root of this side, and I'm going to get x minus 9, because remember this cancels with this, is equal to the positive or negative square root of 76. 76 actually simplifies down into 4 times 19, so I get plus or minus 2 square root of 19, and I still have an x minus 9 on the left side. I need to add that 9 to both sides, add the 9 to both sides, and so I get x is equal to 9 plus or minus 2 square root of 19. Now remember that I normally put my number in front and my plus or minus part in the back and everything. So if you want to use this method, please come see me and I will go over additional problems to help you learn it. Like I said, this is a completely optional method. Okay?